Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another 1/6 scale custom action figure unboxing and review video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at something very special indeed. I found this awesome creator on Instagram known as Rovanic Studios, and they make one of the most incredible custom Batman figures. For those of you who don't know, my favorite incarnation of Batman is the Frank Miller design from The Dark Knight Returns. So when I saw they were making this guy, I had to pick one up. Now the cool thing about this is, yes, it is technically an unofficial product, but it's full handmade custom. So that means you can pick and choose the parts and pieces and customize it to your liking. So I was able to do just that. I picked all of the colors, the accessories I wanted to come with, and honestly, I was kind of blown away by the experience. It was something I had never done before, and this will be my first full custom figure. You can find them on Instagram. I've popped their link down below, but as I said, this is all done in an unofficial capacity. These are one-off, handmade custom works of art. What we are going to do now, though, is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here, of course, we have the box art, and it's relatively straightforward. It's a brown cardboard box with an image on the front. We do have Rovanic Studio Night Lord, that's the name of this Batsy. We do have some other information down below, plus an image of the figure himself. Now, I really don't know what to expect. I've never owned anything from Rovanic Studio before, but up on top we have a certificate of authenticity because, as I said, this is a handmade piece of art, and the cool thing is it appears to be printed on fabric. That's something that I've never seen before, but yeah, I'm really happy to have it. On the inside though, we have the Beast himself, Batman in all his glory, and I do mean that. This guy is an absolute tank. But we'll touch on that a little bit more in just a second. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't come with a display base. Hopefully, going forward, that's something that Rovanic Studio can add. But other than that, he comes with the basics. You can add some additional parts and pieces like the sniper rifle, if that's something you want with your figure, and I'm very tempted to do that with the blue suited version. Now let's talk about the head sculpts, because these are awesome. I am super impressed with the sculpt, with the paint applications, and the skin texture. I mean, this is very clearly Frank Miller's grisly old version of Batman, all the way down to the scowl and the very small ears. But I think my favorite of the set is this one. He's mean, he's angry, and he's ready for war. You can tell that expression is on point. You have some really well painted teeth. They're dirty, they're a little bit grimy, because, as I said, this version of Batman is an old dude. We also have one of the coolest gimmicks that I think I've ever seen on a Batman figure: swappable chest logos. Now, they are pretty straightforward. They are adhesive backed, so you peel off the one on his chest and stick one of these on. This is more accurate to the blue suit version, but if you wanted it on the black one, you could totally stick it on there. And then this one is the classic Dark Knight Returns logo. I also love the texture of the pleathery material they've used for the logos. They're not just a basic yellow painted piece of plastic. These are real material. You also get 2 additional hands. These are actually copies of the Hot Toys BVS hands, but I'm actually totally fine with that, considering the lineage of BVS, how it's so heavily connected to Dark Knight Returns. This is just a very nice touch, and they will work perfectly for this version of Batman. What we are going to do now, though, is get the figure himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him, standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And I cannot tell you how happy I am to have my favorite version of Batman of all time finally represented and done justice in 1/6 scale. I have seen other companies give this a go. Medicom did it back in the day, and their body choice was kind of perplexing. Plus the suit was this weird plasticky material. It just wasn't for me. But this guy definitely is. And the fact that I could customize and pick and choose the colors and the pieces I wanted him to come with was icing on the cake. But even saying all of that, the figure himself does most of the talking. You can see how good this guy looks. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. And yeah, this guy looks all kinds of mean, and I'm all for it. Now let's talk about the head sculpt first. We will be swapping this out with the angry one in just a second to see what that looks like in proportion to the body, and that's specifically what I want to discuss with this head sculpt. Initially I thought it looked a little bit too small. Then I remembered what they were going for. It's the Dark Knight Returns Batman, and if you remember from that storyline, Bruce was huge. So they slightly downscaled the head sculpt to make the body look even bigger. This, I'm pretty sure, is an M35 Fison body. It feels super sturdy. It's one of the highest quality bodies on the market. The musculature is super realistic, and it is an absolute tank, so it works perfectly for Dark Knight Returns Batman. Now, we've already discussed the sculpt itself and the paint applications. You'll know I'm a big fan. Now let's talk about the cape. This is one thing that they could have very easily failed on, like Hot Toys has done time and time again. But they didn't. It's a very waxy but soft feeling material. It kind of looks like a leather grain on the outside, but it drapes flawlessly. That means you can bring it around the front to conceal Batman, or very easily fold it over his shoulders. It's super versatile. They've used that same material for the trunks. It has that kind of pleathery style finish, but it's not going to crack because it's actual real fabric. Now they have used some pleather elements for the gauntlets, which look great, might I add, with the little fins down the side, and the belt plus thigh holster. Now this is something you can customize. I went with a more vibrant comic booky yellow, but if you wanted to go for the brown, yeah, you can totally do that. Just let them know and they'll swap it out for you. I also went for the thigh strap down below, but technically that's more accurate to the blue version of this suit, which I do have coming, but for now it breaks up the grey look of the suit, so I'm going to keep it on. Now, speaking of the suit, the entire thing is made of fabric, and over the top of the grey fabric, there's a ton of muscle shading. It's something that you don't know you're going to miss until you see it on a 1/6 scale figure. And now when I look at my Sideshow Batman, it's something that I think they should have done. It really does highlight all of the muscle definition. On the torso, around the biceps, down here on the thighs, this thing pops. Plus, you do have these swappable chest logos, but for me, I'm going to be going with this one because it's the most accurate to this suit. Lastly, coming down to the boots, this is my only real complaint. It's not a split-cut boot design. It's one solid rubbery piece, which is nice and sturdy. There is some sculpting down below, plus some silver dry brushing, just to make it look slightly weathered. But other than that, they are one solid piece, so you don't get a ton of boot articulation. What we are going to do now, though, is swap out that head sculpt. And there you have it. If you thought the first one looked mean, think again. This one is something else entirely. It's the same overall size and shape, so it fits in pretty well with the proportions of the body, but being slightly downscaled, it makes this guy, as I said before, look even bigger. So for me, yeah, it's not really a complaint. I love the way this looks. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the Rovanic Studio Night Lord on the left and the Sideshow Classic Batman on the right. And don't get me wrong, I still really do like my Sideshow Classic Batman, but this Dark Knight Returns one steals the show. Look how big and bulky this guy is. He is huge, but not really in terms of height, which I'm actually perfectly okay with. People, as they tend to age, tend to shrink a little bit in size, but Bruce Wayne wasn't going to let that stop him. He still got absolutely jacked. So him being slightly smaller, no, it doesn't bother me whatsoever, but that's something that you will have to consider and think about as to whether or not it will influence your purchasing decision. That's something I knew going in because this is an M35 Fison body. It's not overly tall. You can use ankle extenders if you do want him to be even bigger, or I have heard that they are considering switching to a World Box body for future releases. Either way, yeah, I'm loving the way this guy looks. Just going over articulation. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure and it's a handmade custom, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. If you are familiar with Fison bodies, then you already know how this guy moves. Now starting off with the head sculpt, it is on a double ball peg and the neck is a rubbery one, so you get a ton of range in pretty much all directions. The arms will go up more than the full way. They will of course go forward and back, butterfly joint at the shoulder. There is a swivel at the bicep, a double bend at the elbow that does go past 90, plus a double ball peg for the wrist. The torso does have multiple joints, crunching forward the full way, same thing with going back, swivel, and then of course pivot side to side. The legs will go forward to there, they will go out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend at the knee. You do have a ball joint down here for the ankle, but it's a solid sculpted boot, so you don't really get a ton of range. Just wrapping up on the Rovanic Studio Night Lord, aka Batman from The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. Now going into this, I was expecting to be wowed. At the end of the video, can I honestly say that I have been? Yeah, absolutely. This guy has brought so much awesome to the table. Starting off with the super articulated Fison body, then a full fabric suit on top of that, meaning you can get crazy with your posing and not have to worry about cracking or stressing of material, which is definitely a good thing, because this version of Batman has some very iconic poses, and if he wasn't able to pull them off, then yeah, I would have been a little bit disappointed. Now let's talk about the quality of everything that they've made, because let's be honest, they didn't build the Fison body. What about the stuff that they put on top? Yeah, it gets a huge tick of approval from me. I love the fabric bodysuit. You can see all the shading for the musculature. You have the swappable chest logos, the pleather elements for his gauntlets and his belt, which, as I said earlier on, are all fully customizable. I also love the material they've chosen for the cape. It's got a great texture to it, a decent amount of weight to it, and it drapes perfectly. There's also a ton of it, so you can bring it around to cover Batman and have him lurk in the shadows quite nicely. And then we get to the head sculpts. They are truly awesome. They're both unique, brand new sculpts by the team at Rovanic Studio, and they have nailed it. The sculpt, the paint applications, the texture of the mask, and also of the mouth itself, very well done. So definitely check them out over on Instagram. As I said at the intro of the video, these are all full custom handmade works of art. They aren't mass produced. This is not a third-party company. It's an artist who is sitting down and making these things by hand. So I do have to say a huge thank you to Rovanic Studio for allowing me to purchase this guy and review him on the channel. If you are down in the description, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.